viewers of the CBS soap opera As the World Turns. First word came at about 1:40 p.m. Eastern Time. It happened too quickly for cameras to be in place.
And I gave it a great deal of thought, Grandpa.
Here is a bulletin from CBS News. In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade in downtown Dallas. The first reports say that President Kennedy has been seriously wounded by this shooting.
Then it was back to the soap opera, but not for long. Soon after, Walter Cronkite was back, reporting from the CBS newsroom, complete with rotary telephones and wire machines.
This picture has just been transmitted by wire. It is a picture taken just a moment or two before the incident. If you can zoom in with that camera, we can get a closer look at this picture.
And almost exactly 1 hour after his initial bulletin, this now famous announcement.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office shortly and become the 36th President of the United States.
Those are my 20s.
Yeah, right. I was, 12 years old. Anyway, let me get this going here. I'm talking with Jerry Pippin about the Kennedy assassination 51 years ago. How you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing about the same, actually.
Okay.
Good to be on your show with you.
Yeah, and I'm glad to have you. So what?
And I want to wish you the best on your medical needs, and things are coming up for you, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm going down the, as they say, the road too. With the situation there. But again, I'm, as they say, had good company there. Warren Buffett had the same problem. He's cancer free now, so that situation. General Powell had that. There's a long list of people, and of course there's a list of some. Kwame Ture didn't make it with prostate with cancer, but we'll see. Anyway, 51 years ago in Dallas, Texas, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated by unknowns, we'll say, at this stage of the game. They had a couple of patsies there, or at least there. So what's your thoughts on that 51 years later, Jerry?
Yep. It seems like it was last week or yesterday, as they say. I was coming out of the radio station in Alameda, California, which is in the Bay Area, a jazz station. I was over there doing something. I didn't work there. I just was recording something for somebody or something.
Okay.
Anyway, the fact is that I went into that radio station with the car radio on a station called KSFO, and Al Collins was the disc jockey. And he played, light pop music and jazz and big band stuff. And basically, when I got back in the car, they were playing classical music. So it happened that fast. People geared up to suddenly report it. And, of course, the most famous is Walter Cronkite, who shed a couple of tears as he announced that the president was killed.
Okay. And since you were in California, let's see, you would have been, 2 hours behind? Yeah, 2 hours behind Dallas.
10-something in the morning.
Okay. And on the east, of course, on the East Coast, I believe it was about 2 o'clock or so when that happened. And I can recall it as a what was I at that time? I believe I was 12 years old. I think. Wait a minute. I think something like that. But anyway, I can remember it, and a rarity, 24-hour TV, basically. The TV was on, and they had live reports at that time with the type of technology they had, and it went all night long. And I believe it was on a Friday. I think it was a Friday afternoon.
Yes.
Okay. And that went on all weekend, basically. And Sunday they had live shots. That's when Jack Ruby was shot in the garage. Excuse me. That was when Jack Ruby shot Oswald in the garage. Get it right in a minute here.
That's right, down at the police station in Dallas. And it looked awfully like a hit to me to shut somebody up.
Yeah, it was, and it was done in a manner in which he just walked in and boom, 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 and that was it. And Oswald all along,
he of course knew all the cops. And
right, yeah, because he was in Vice, and they were too, so to speak, quite literally.
Yeah.
So he did know all the cops. He was an easy man to get in there because he would, be around there. Did favors for them, no doubt. And in other words, it was the perfect setup. One of the things about Oswald, I can recall from what we heard of him, when they were transporting him, and at that time, moving him through the halls and that sort of thing, he proclaimed his innocent. He didn't do it. He was, he proclaimed that, and he wanted a lawyer, and he was very coherent, what have you, throughout, the whole situation.
Actually, you're right, and there's more to him than we know even today, I would say.
I would think so also. No doubt. He had been in many, many places that they say the ordinary citizen did not go, but at the same time, from what I've heard, from all these sources, he was an inside man, but not that much of an inside man. In other words, he didn't know many things he should have known because they had many different people playing Oswald, like in Mexico. Certainly when he was in New Orleans, the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, that was part of an organization called the Militant, that was a newspaper, Socialist Workers' Party, and various other Trotsky factions were, organizing around that. But evidently Oswald stood out because he was from any ordinary, leftist, and again, we're back in the 60s, because evidently he was connected up with this character Clay Shaw and various other characters, and Clay Shaw was just simply CIA. That's
right. That story's been alive for 50-some odd years now, and the same thing has been said about it now that was said a day after the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah,
you stop and think about it.
Take us back there, Jerry, because at that now, if you do the polling, most people believe the official government story. But at that time, if I recall, and of course, being what 12, 15 years old, what it was, that they did some polling and talked to people that the average person believed it was a conspiracy. In fact, most people believed it was a conspiracy. I don't know if you could have found 1 out of 10 people that believed it was not a conspiracy.
Well, you may be right there. There are a lot of people that never bought the government story.
No, but in 1963, because remember they had live TV, and they would have remotes in New York, in Dallas, all over the country. They did because they had to have something for the TV. But people were saying they all felt it was a conspiracy. That was, and it was on the. I remember seeing it in New York Times, various newspapers, headlines. Conspiracy, more or less, in Dallas, not exact headline, but I can recall that being the case, and that was the case up till the Justice Warren had the Warren Commission, and after he issued the report, most of the people at that time felt it was kind of like a joke. I mean, it was well over 60% of the people didn't believe the Warren report.
That's true, and the Warren report has lots of flaws in it.
Many flaws.
Looked at it over the years.
because really they were not permitted to investigate many of the facts. They didn't have the investigators. They were not in place to do that. LBJ wanted a quick report to settle things and get the nation back to business. And even LBJ, I think in another program we did, Jerry, he was talking about in his latter years, just before he died, about his own suspicions of the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
He was very suspicious about it.
A lot of people, of course, think LBJ was in on it, but I don't think so.
I agree with you. I don't either. My thoughts on that is that no, LBJ was not in on it. He was not the inside person on that. But there could have been other interests in Dallas at the time. But more than you look to CIA military types and those types of people that decided was going. I also think about, remember they had the Cuban angle. They asked Fidel about it. Fidel didn't know anything about it. But they knew something about some of these Cubans around there. But it was kind of like this Clay Shaw character. And the more you get into the CIA stuff, and the people that were in the CIA, around the CIA, flying airplanes, etc., around there, that guy was definitely associated with a bunch of characters that had been in the CIA. Now, as far as Oswald being 007, no, he was not a 007. But he was a perfect patsy because he had been to Belarus, worked there, married the Russian, and there was a lot of loose strings in that. If you recall also, Jerry, the wife of Oswald stayed with some Quaker family down in Dallas for a while there, and when Jerry Spence was reenacting, he was the prosecutor for TV later, they interviewed her and they talked to her about it, and my take was on her that she was not exactly all straightforward either. That possibly right. She knew more, about that situation. In other words, she was not an innocent bystander in that. That she was no doubt sort of in the peace movement, but at the same time, this woman ends up at her house, and Oswald ends up there, and she said, "Well, he was carrying curtains." There's no evidence that he was carrying any curtains because there was an African American that happened to be working there were a lot of African Americans who worked at book depository and they didn't pay very much money. But he saw Oswald drinking a soda and eating, peanuts or whatever it was, and he had nothing. He was not in that area that they claimed that he was in. And some other people saw somebody sticking out of the window, but it wasn't Oswald.
Mm.
So, the whole situation is as mysterious today as ever. Give us a little bit of your take in the few minutes we got, Jerry. I know you're a little bit ill there.
Okay, you want my opinion on what? I'm sorry.
Of this whole assassination business and where it stands today.
Well, I think they've succeeded in keeping the secret, and they probably will continue to go to everybody's grave with them that knows about it.
Well, aren't most of the people now that were involved in that pretty much all dead?
Yes, that's true. And now if somebody's written something or recorded something, it may surface later.
That's possible too. There was a situation, even some of the witnesses that were there in Dealey Plaza around that area that actually saw what went on. A lot of them mysteriously left the face of the earth. Private citizens. Right. So in other words, there was just more there than just some fella, with a rifle he ordered, going to the book depository and sticking it out the window and shooting, which they said a person that was an expert marksman could not have done that particular situation. Now, the FBI agents, the last time you and I did this show, they brought some in. They hadn't died yet, and they were trying to say, well, yeah. But there was evidence those fellows were hung over so bad they could barely stand on the cars. So again, you got the face language from some of those